Welcome to episode 65 of Book Nerd Paradise, where we get to know an author as they tell us one of their favorite quotes, read from their work, pose a trivia question, and give away a book or two. Hi, I'm LRW Lee, author of the Andy Smithson Epic Fantasy Adventure Series. And today, what I thought I would do, so I am working on book 6, which is called Wisdom of the Centaur's Reason, which should be released, I think, January of 2017. And I wanted to share with you just a little snippet of what I was writing today. So it goes like this. Andy sucked in a breath as the hulking doors to the throne room opened. Silver scrollwork with amethyst accents inlaid in white marble covered the floor and walls. Although muted by a fog, the morning sunshine begged to be part of the display, and through polished amethyst crystals accenting the silver-embellished dome, it showered the room with a spray of purple hues that shifted and moved as the haze drifted by in varying thicknesses. So that's just a little snippet, just to whet your appetite. How's that? So there's more coming, as you can tell, and I thought I would just share little snippets along the way. All right. Okay, so today we have the privilege of getting to know YA fantasy author Danielle Jensen. Danielle was born and raised in Calgary, Canada. At the insistence of the left side of her brain, she graduated in 2003 from the University of Calgary with a bachelor's degree in finance. But the right side of her brain has always been mutinous, she says. And in 2010, it sent her back to school to complete an entirely impractical English literature degree at Mount Royal University and to pursue publication. Much to her satisfaction, the right side shows no signs of relinquishing its dominion now. She lives today in Calgary, Alberta, with her other half and their daughter. She says she used to have a labradoodle named Elmo, but her mom stole him from her. He doesn't miss her in the slightest. Traitor. Please join me in welcoming Danielle Jensen.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Linda, for having me. Hopefully I can give you a few insightful details that you haven't all heard before. So we'll get started.
All right. Well, I'm thrilled to have you here with us today, Danielle. This is going to be fun. I'm going to be reading from your YA fantasy novel, Stolen Songbird, which is book 1 in the Malediction Trilogy. And I should add as a side note for listeners, so book 3 in the trilogy, Witch Warrior, was just released last month, like the beginning of May. So the series is complete. So if you're one of those people who doesn't like to get into a series until they have all the books available, now is your chance to get it, okay? So Danielle's going to be sharing a synopsis of the Malediction Trilogy as a whole, so you should get kind of an overview of what to expect if you're going to read it. So if you would, go ahead and tell us what it's about.
Malediction Trilogy is about a young soprano named Cecile. She's about to depart her family farm to join her mother on the opera stage in the big city. But before she can leave, trolls kidnap her and bond her to their crown prince, Tristan, in order to break the curse that has imprisoned them under their mountain kingdom for 5 centuries. Except that it doesn't work. Cecile is initially focused on escape, but she finds herself embroiled in the burgeoning revolution of the oppressed lower class of half-bloods, who are half troll, half human, and they are desire to overthrow their tyrannical king. And this revolution just happens to be led by the crown prince Tristan himself. So it's a sort of a secret revolution. As she becomes more sympathetic to the trolls and to the half-bloods and falls in love with Tristan, she has to decide whether freeing her friends is worth the risk of unleashing the trolls' magic on the world. And she must live with the consequences of whatever path she chooses.
Ooh, okay, yes, this is very good. You've selected a favorite quote. If you would, tell us what your favorite quote is and then explain why it's favorite.
My favorite quote is from Oscar Wilde's The Picture of Dorian Gray. And I actually have it, and it will probably be impossible for you to see, on this nice cuff bracelet that I wear to lots of literary events. But the quote itself is, there is only one thing in the world worse than being talked about, and that is not being talked about. I think that in a lot of ways as an author, it's obvious why this quote is is a particularly good one. but I think it speaks a little bit more to my life as a whole. When I was young, I was really shy, and lots of times I still am, but I thought being talked about was, the worst thing in the world, because it, of course, was going to be negative, and it was, of course, going to be, something that, I would be absolutely horrified about. But as I've, aged and grown, I've learned that, generally speaking, if you're not being talked about, it's because you're not doing anything interesting or worthwhile. And so, in my mind, that is a far worse thing than being the occasional subject of gossip.
You're also going to be giving away a book. If you would tell our listeners what you're giving away.
Yeah, so I'll give a signed copy of one of my books. You can choose. So there's Stolen Songbird, which is the first one, and Hidden Huntress is the second one, and Warrior Witch, which just came out on May 3rd, is the third one. So, if you're new to the series, obviously we could start with the first one, but if you're someone who's been with me for a while, then you can choose whichever one that you want, and I will include some swag and whatnot with it. So, and that will be open to internationally. So
that's awesome. Okay, yeah, because many authors will only offer an ebook internationally, but this is awesome. Okay, so wherever you are in the world, you too get an autographed paperback copy of one of these three books. She's not even limiting it to only the first. You can, so if you got any of them, you can get the next one that you're in line for. Awesome. All right, so to enter to win, in the comment section right down there, all you need to do is leave a comment about the show. But if you would, please, please, please make sure you leave a Twitter handle, Facebook address, or an email address, so that if you are the lucky winner, we can be sure to get a hold of you. All right, so then Danielle, you're going to actually read from Stolen Songbird, which is book 1 in the Malediction Trilogy. Would you briefly set up the portion you'll be reading from and then share with us?
Sure. I'm actually, as you can see, starting at an action scene that is near the beginning, which is always easy because I don't have to worry about spoilers. But Cecile lives in sort of a farming community, but she's been in town with having a music lesson with her much despised music teacher. And she's just on her way home with eggs for a cake that her grandmother is baking for her going away party that night. So she is riding her horse home. And that is probably all the introduction you're going to need here. Our farm was close enough to the hollow that we were almost considered townfolk, but far enough that the smell of pigs didn't offend the noses of those less used to country life. I could have galloped the entire way there, but I let Fleur stop and catch her breath about halfway. Her hooves thudded softly against the damp earth as we walked down the road. The smell of pine was thick in the air, and a cool breeze rushed down from the mountains, blowing my long red hair out behind me. A flash of movement caught my eye, and I stopped, scanning the forest to either side of the road. Bears and mountain cats were common enough here, but if the horse had scented a predator, she'd have been uncontrollable. The wind gusted through the trees, and I thought I heard the crackle of breaking underbrush, though I couldn't be sure. My pulse quickened, a prickle of anxiety running down my spine. Highwayman? Robbery wasn't common this far north of the ocean road, but it was possible. Hello, I called out, gathering up the reins. Is someone there? No answer, but anyone intending to rob me was unlikely to reply. My trepidation grew. I'd ridden this road, rain, snow, and shine, and never felt a moment's fear before. Fleur pranced beneath me, sensing my anxiety. The wind rose again, no longer gentle, but like angry fingers tugging at my hair. The sun ducked behind a cloud, turning the air chill. My eyes unconsciously turned to Forsaken Mountain, looming in the distance. I was halfway between home and town, but Jerome Gerard's farm was nearby. I could ride there and ask his son Christophe to accompany me the rest of the way. But what if he laughed at me for being such a ninny, scared of noises in the underbrush that were probably from a squirrel or a snake? Despite a lifetime proving to the contrary, everyone acted like I was already a city girl, and this would only prove their point. I circled and stared back the way I came. I could ride back and wait for my brother, but what if something kept him in Trianon and he wasn't even coming? I'll gallop home, I decided. Let whoever's lurking in the woods try and catch me. Turning Fleur around, I abruptly hauled on the reins. The basket slipped from my hand and smashed against the ground, yellow yolks mixing with the mud. A cloaked rider blocked the road. My heart leapt. Fleur wheeled around, and I laid the ends of my reins to her haunches. Ha! I shouted as she surged forward. Cecile, Cecile, wait, it's me. A familiar voice. Gentler this time, I reined in and looked over my shoulder. Luke? Yes, it's me, Cecile. He trotted over, pulling back his hood to reveal his face. What are you doing sneaking about like that? I asked. You scared the wits out of me. He shrugged. I wasn't certain it was you at first. Sorry about the eggs. An apology that didn't explain at all why he'd been lurking in the bushes in the first place. I haven't seen you in quite some time. Where have you been? I asked the question even though I knew the answer. His father was a gameskeeper on an estate not far from our farm, but several months ago, Luke had taken off for Trianon. My brother and other townsfolk had caught wind that Luke had had a bit of luck betting on the horses and playing at cards, and was now living the high life spending his winnings. Here and there, he said, riding around me in a circle. The gossips say you're moving to Trianon to live with your mother. Her carriage is coming for me tomorrow. You'll be singing on stage then? Yes. He smiled. You always did have the voice of an angel. I need to get home, I said. My grand's expecting me. My father, too. I hesitated and looked down the road. You may ride with me if you'd like. I rather hoped he wouldn't accept, but riding was better than standing here alone with him. Today is your birthday, isn't it? His horse saddled tight against mine. I frowned. Yes. 17. You're a woman now. He looked me up and down as though inspecting something that could be bought and sold. A horse at market, or something worse. He chuckled softly to himself and I cringed. What's so funny? My heart raced, my instincts telling me that something was terribly wrong. Please, someone come down the road. I was just thinking about how sometimes fortune finds us when we least expect, he said. Before I could react, he reached down and seized Fleur's reins. I need you to come with me. There are some individuals who would very much like to make your acquaintance. I'm not going anywhere with you, Luke, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I did not want him to know I was afraid. My brother won't take kindly to hearing that you caused me trouble. Luke glanced around. Funny, but I don't see Frederick about. Seems it's just you and me. He was right about that, but wrong if he thought I'd go without a fight. I jammed my spurs into Fleur's sides, and she reared, hooves striking out and knocking away Luke's hand. Ha! I screamed and plunged down the road at a gallop. Sensing my terror, the horse ran faster than ever before, ears pinned back. But Luke's stallion was bigger. If I kept to the road, he'd catch us easily. A game trail appeared ahead, and I swung down the path. Branches tore at my hair and skirts as we leapt over fallen trees and crashed through the underbrush. I let the mare have her head, concentrating on staying low and keeping my seat. Behind us, I heard the big horse's hooves thundering against the ground, along with Luke's curses and vile threats. We were nearing the Gerard farm. Ahead, the break in the forest was visible, and beyond lay their fields. Chris, I screamed, knowing I was still too far from them to hear. Jerome? A glance behind showed Luke in fast pursuit. He was near enough for me to see the worry written on his face. I could not let him catch me. I would not. Then a branch smashed across my chest, launching me backwards. Fleur disappeared from underneath me, and I was falling, my eyes fixed on the sun filtering through the green leaves of the trees. Then nothing. There you go.
Our guest last week, YA fantasy author Jenna Nelson, posed a trivia question for us.
My question last week was from Harry Potter. And the question was, what color are the flames in the Goblet of Fire? And the answer is blue. They're blue. Who knew?
Danielle, you have a trivia question for our listeners. What is it?
I sure do. So this is for Hunger Game fans, which is everyone, right? So my question is, what is Katniss's younger sister's name?
I know. But I shan't say. Okay, so make sure, especially if you don't know the answer, that you subscribe to this YouTube channel. I believe it's the button right over here. Click the red button and you'll subscribe to the channel. Therefore, next episode when Danielle reveals the answer, you won't have to remember. It'll be pushed right to you. All right? Cool. Danielle, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to leave with our listeners?
Well, I just want to say thanks to everyone who is listening, and hopefully you enjoyed listening to me read. And if you haven't heard about my books, hopefully you're interested in picking up a copy now. They are all available through all major retailers. And they are available in paperback, ebook, and audiobook, as we've already discussed. So I hope that you will check them out, and you can find me online in a variety of places. And I'm always welcome to questions and conversation from people on Twitter or any of the other usual Instagram and social media and Tumblr and websites and all that sort of stuff. You can find me.
She's everywhere. Yes.
Everywhere.
And actually, so to make it really easy for you guys, if you want to get a hold of her real quick, take a look at the show notes right down below, and her website and Twitter and Facebook and all that good stuff. Links to those are right down there. So all you got to do is click on a link and presto, there you go. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for those words, Danielle.
Thank you.
Well, with that, we arrive at the end of this episode. I hope you all have enjoyed getting to know Danielle Jensen just a little bit, and certainly I encourage you to check out her Malediction Trilogy, because it's definitely worth the read. So I'm LRW Lee, author of the Andy Smithson Epic Fantasy Adventure Series, and just a quick reminder, Book 1, Last of the Dragon's Fury, and the prequel, Power of the Air's Passion. The ebooks are both available for download on Amazon, Google Play, and Barnes & Noble. So if you haven't already, please do get a copy. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.